Okay, guys, this story is called The Witch of the Porta alla Croce. In any secret should sacred be, though it guarded the life of a family. And any woman be thereabout, she will die, but what she will find it out. And though it hurried her soul too well, the secrets that must immediately tell. There are in Italy, as elsewhere, families to whom a fatality or tradition is attached. The following is the curious legend of the kind. La Fattunere delle Porta alla Croce. There are a very old Florentine family which lived in a castle in the country. This elder ahead of this family had always one room in which no one was ever allowed to enter. There he passed hours alone every day and wooed anyone who dared disturb him while there. And this had been the case for generations, and no one had ever found out what the secret was. This was, of course, a great vexation to the ladies of the family. Perché la donna e sempre corsoruna, women being always inquisitive. And the most inquisitive of all was a niece of the old man who had got her into her head that the secret was simply a great treasure which she might obtain. Therefore, they resolved to consult with a certain witch who would tell her what it was and how she could enter the mysterious room. This sorceress lived hard by the Porta alla Croce, for there are many witches in that quarter. The witch, who was a largely tall woman, made the niece go into her isolated small house, and thus along a path, the lady in advance. While she doing so, the lantern turned her head and looked behind her, and at an instant heard a cry of a civita, a small owl. The witch exclaimed, "My dear lady, what you wish for will hardly be granted. I fear this is a great disaster awaiting you." Then they went into a field, and the fortune teller produced a goblet of colored glass, and called to the swallow, which is a bird of a good omen, or to a small owl, which forebodies evil, and said, "Whichever shall all light first on the edge of this cup will be the sign of your success or failure." But the first which came and sat upon the cup was the owl. Then the witch said, "What there is in that room I cannot reveal, for it disturbs my soul too much. But I know that the number of that room is 13, and you can infer for yourself what that pertains. And more I cannot tell you, save that you should be extremely careful and keep a cheerful heart, otherwise there is great trouble awaiting you." But the lady returned home in a great rage at her, disappointed, and all the more resolved to enter the room. Then all the family, finding this out, reapproached her and urged her not to be so distracted, and she, being obstinate, only became the more determined. She was furious that she could not force an old man to reveal a secret which had been handed down for many generations, and which could only be confined to one of the eldest when the old man should die. And at last her evil will or mania attained such command over her that she resolved to kill all the family one by one till the succession of the secret should come to her. And so, after boiling deadly herbs with care, she made a strong bubbly poison, and by the means she put to death her parents, brothers, sisters, aunts, and all the family without remorse. So resolved was she to master this secret. The last to perish was her grandfather, and the calling her to his bedside, he said, we have all died but thy hand. We who never did thee any harm, and thou hast felt no remorse. This thou didst to gain a treasure, and bitterly wilt thou be disappointed. Thy punishment will begin when thou shalt learn what the thing was so long hidden. There was so much sorrow enough therein without the misery which thou hast added to it. That which thou wilt find in chamber, a skull and the skull of our earliest ancestor, which must always be given to the care of the eldest descendant, and now I give it to you. And this thou must do. Go every morning at 7 o'clock into the room and close the windows. Then light 4 candles before the skull. In front of there lies a great book, in which is written the story of our family, my life and thine, and see that thou do this with care, or woe be unto thee. Therewith the old man died, and sacredly had he departed. She called an old woman who was allied and devoted to the family, and enraged told her all the secret. The woman reproved her, saying that she would bring punishment onto herself, but without heeding this, the lady ran to the chamber, entered, and seeing the skull, gave it a kick and hurled it from the window far below. Sorry, guys. Slight intermission. But a minute after, she heard a rattling sound, and looking at the window, there the skull was grinning at her. Again she threw it down, and again it returned, and she with her wherever she went, day after day, walking or sleeping, the skull was always before her eyes. At last fear came over her, and then horror, and she said to the old woman, "Let us go to some place far, far away and bury the skull. Perhaps it will rest in its grave." The old woman tried to dissuade her, and they went to a lonely spot at a great distance, and there they dug a long and deep hole. Dug till a great hole was made, and the lady standing on the edge dropped the skull into it. Then the hole spread into a great pit. Flame rose from it, and the edge crumbled away. The guilty woman fell into the crossfire, and the earth closed over it, and there was no trace left of her. The skull returned to the castle and to its room. People say it is there to this day. The old woman returned to, and being the last remote retaliation, entered into possession of this property. There is perhaps not one well-educated person in society in England who has not had an opportunity to remark how very much any old family can succeed in being notorious if they can only once make it known that it has an inheritary secret. Novels will be written on it, every member of it will be pointed out everywhere, and people who do not know the name of the sovereign in Europe can tell you all about it and them. And the number is not small of those who consider themselves immensely greater because they have in some way mastered something which they are expected to keep concealed. I could almost believe that this horrible tale was composed as a satire on family secrets, but I believe that she who told it firmly believed it. To this I may add that there is an English legend of certain skull which always returned to a certain window in a tower. The witch's head of Rider Haggard, with many more, not to speak